there, how are you? And welcome to another one of those fun videos that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with shaving, but I think you gentlemen out there that like old-timey shaving will probably like this presentation about old radios. And we're here in the kitchen. This is Coffee and Conversation, one of those installments, although no coffee for me today because my stomach wants to do flip-flops lately when I drink coffee. But we're here where the coffee is usually made, and this presentation is about old radios. And this one here I don't expect to work because it quit working a few years ago. It's an old GE clock radio, and you can see it there. I'm actually going to plug it in and see if I get anything, but it needs repaired. It's an old tube radio, and I'm guessing it's from the late 1950s. So, excuse me here, I'm going to go ahead and... No, this thing shouldn't blow up or anything, although I had something like that happen earlier because I plugged in a radio that it turned out that its cord was frayed, and I got a big pop and jumped about a foot. And no, I don't know what I'm doing. That makes this especially fun. This might be the last you see of old Don F here. But anyway, let's plug this one in. Oh, my point being, I have a whole tub full of old radios here. A couple of replicas, some solid state, some tube radios. And I'll show you what I used to collect and play with before I get into shaving. Whoa, I'm trying to turn the volume down on this. Okay. I don't expect to get anything. Okay, that's about it. And let's see, how do I turn this off? Since it's a clock radio. Oh crap. I guess it doesn't matter. That probably means that one of the, well, the way it had that kind of robotic sound for what you could hear, probably means that one of the capacitors that are hard to fix inside one of the, what do they call them, the RF canisters or something, the metal canisters inside on the chassis, maybe one of those is ruined. Otherwise, when an old radio doesn't work, the tubes usually aren't the problem. It's usually the capacitors. Usually a radio needs recapped. Old capacitors, the old paper and wax ones, can dry out, and so they need to be replaced, recapped with new capacitors. But I'm going to set this aside for now. Like I said, I didn't expect that one to work, but this one I know does work. I forgot to tell you, one of the reasons I'm here in the kitchen is because for some reason in other parts of my apartment I get some kind of interference on the AM band, and most of these radios, especially the old ones, just have an AM dial. FM wasn't real big back then. In fact, there was an old FM dial that band got moved one way or the other a little bit. So if you do find an old radio, I mean a real old radio that has an FM band, usually you have to install, and I can't think of the name of it, it's a thing that fixes that problem. The numbers on your dial may not be correct, but it will correct that so that it picks up today's FM band. But I'm going to plug this in. This is AM only. This is from circa 1958. It is an old Admiral radio with a plastic case. Inside, it doesn't have a chassis. It has printed circuits on a circuit board, but since transistors were not yet real big, except perhaps on radios coming from Japan, this has miniature tubes instead of transistors, but I know this works. So I'm going to plug this in and turn it on. Just like that one, it'll take a minute to come on because it's a tube radio and the tubes have to warm up. I should start to get something soon here. There we are. I'm still getting some interference even here, but this is the best place I can get reception on AM in this whole apartment. I suspect that somebody somewhere may be running a ham radio or something and doing it outside of normal FCC rules or something. I've actually thought of calling the FCC and letting them know. Of course, they might just laugh at me. Some old guy trying to get AM reception. But anyway. When I moved temporarily to a different community, different town, this radio sounded a whole lot better because there was none of that interference. And I know that also varies. It's the sun has gone down now, so radio reception should be better, I guess, but a lot of the local stations probably have to turn down their transmitter at sunset so that the signal doesn't go too far and interfere with other radio stations farther away. That's called the, now I can't even think of the skywave effect is what that's called. AM radio signals travel farther after dark because after the sun goes down they bounce off the ionosphere and travel farther. There was something else I wanted to say about this. Oh yes, I'm going to hold this closer to the camera and maybe you'll be able to see. I don't know if that's going to show up, but at, well, about 12:40 right there, you may not be able to see it, and I think at, it's supposed to be at 8:40. It doesn't show very well, but this radio has the old Conelrad markings on the dial, and Conelrad was an early civilian defense against atomic war kind of deal. It has a different name nowadays. It's a whole different organization now, but you were, prior to 1963, between about 1953 and 1963, radios came out with the Conelrad markings, and you were instructed to call, or not to call, but to tune in to those two places on your dial. Other stations, all other stations, were supposed to go off the air except for those places on the dial which would tell you what to do in case of nuclear attack. Duck and cover, I guess. So, yeah, and I just thought of something, this first radio I showed you. I'm not seeing any Conelrad markings on here, so this must have been, I'm going to guess this was made after 1963, because that's the last year that they had the Conelrad. So, see you then. Enough of all that, and I will unplug this and go on to the next radio. And if I can find room for everything here. Here's another radio. This is circa 1965. When I first got this, it's pretty dingy now. This is supposed to be a color called Bell White, which I guess named after the telephone company, maybe. Maybe they had phones that were this color, but it's supposed to be white. But somebody had, when I purchased this, it was used, and somebody had already put like wallpaper on the outside of it, not over the speaker grill, but over this part of the case, trying to make it more decorative. Well, I sort of tore that off and tried to clean this up a little bit, but this radio still works, although sometimes it gets a weird kind of hum, well, not a hum, it makes a squelching noise, and I just do the old-fashioned thing we used to do back in the day. I just hit it on the top, and that seems to make it quit making that bad noise. But let me plug this in, and yeah, okay, and I'll turn this on. Now, I did a screw up here. I was cleaning something in there, trying to get rid of some static. I was spraying it with something in there, and usually these knobs slip right on and right off, but I broke the knob a little bit, so at least I still have the knob. I was looking, I can get this replaced pretty cheaply, but somebody's got to have one of those old GE knobs. That's what this is. It's a GE AM radio, circuit board, and miniature tubes, again, just like that 1958 Admiral Radio. So I'm going to turn it on here, and it should be at or about where our local station is. Not too much on AM here. There's some other stations I can pull in after dark. That sounds pretty good. In a previous residence, I had this up on a shelf in my little kitchenette I had there. That sounds really good. I'll try to shut this off now. They say that if you run one of these radios for just 30 minutes a month, it'll keep any old capacitors wet, keep them working, because there's supposed to be a thin layer of goo of some kind, something wet or wet-ish, in between two tiny strips of metal inside an old capacitor, or even a new one, I guess. But yeah, that sounded pretty good. Oh, there we go. Okay, there's that. Let's see. I'm going to set things on the floor here until I... Okay, here's a nice old radio. This one's what they call solid state. No tubes, transistors, and such. This is an old Zenith radio. Again, AM only. I'm guessing this is from, if I had to guess, I'd say circa 1968. Certainly no Conrad markings or anything like that. But let's turn it on. Some static there in the well, the volume knob. The potentiometer is the technical name. So, there you have that. That's another nice old radio that works. I collected these over a period of time, about a decade, almost a decade ago. So, there's that, an old Zenith radio, solid state. And here's something I picked up. An Arvin, this was for the bedroom mostly, but you could put it anywhere. It's a clock radio, and solid state, and I'm also guessing late 60s, early 70s. Clock still works, the radio still works. It's got a very minimal sound to it. You can tell this is kind of almost like the smaller transistor radios you used to carry around and listen to. It doesn't have a really broad sound, but it does the job. So, okay, I got that plugged in. Now I use, which little knob is it? It's this little knob here. Maybe that's where you put your sticky notes, I don't know, with the speakers there, I guess. That would have also looked good on somebody's desk back in the day. Okay, that is an Arvin radio. And electric transistor, it says. Solid state, it says right. I don't know if you can see that. These solid state radios all say solid state on them somewhere. As they all did back in the day. I guess I'm dating myself now, showing you how old I am. I mentioned the term solid state to a friend of mine, a peer of mine who graduated the same year in high school, meaning we're both 39 still, you know. But yeah, I used the term solid state, and he works. He's like an electrical engineer. Well, more than that, he works for like Boeing and IBM. Works for one, contracts to the other, or whatever. And I used the term solid state, and he started laughing because he hadn't heard that term in years. Nobody uses that term anymore because we just take for granted that electronics are going to have transistors rather than tubes. In fact, they can put like 1 billion transistors on a little silicon wafer and call it a computer or your phone or whatever. Here's another radio. This is a General Electric AM/FM clock radio, and if I had to guess, I would say 1975-ish, but it says solid state right there above, well, on the clock dial. Not that you need to see it, but maybe you can see there where it says solid state. Right underneath where it says AM or FM AM. And yeah, excuse me, having quite a time here. But both the AM and FM bands are represented on this dial, which I think the AM or FM, no, that's AM, FM's down there. And then you switch between the two with a little thing on the side of this volume knob. So, let's see, I turn it on with this little knob here, which would also help you set your alarm if you wanted to wake up to music. And I think there's also an alarm you can wake up to, a buzz or something. But, yeah, let me turn this on. I guess it is on. Why aren't I getting anything? Wait a second. I should be getting something. Hold on. There it is. Maybe there's a little short in this knob, huh? I don't know. But anyway. I want to try this knob again. Make sure. Seems to be working just fine now. There's also a thing you can go over here and put it on wake, and that radio will come on instead of the, well, I don't know if there is a regular alarm now. I'm wondering if there is, but you can wake to music, or you can just have it on or off. I remember this one, sometimes I would have to get up every so often and fine-tune it again. There was not channel bleed, but there's a name for that. The channel would kind of wander a little bit. I'll think of these terms long after I've finished this video. And then you just turn it off that way. And I'm curious, again, to make sure there's not like some kind of permanent short in this. So it's a solid state radio. It comes on more or less as soon as you turn it on. So there's that. I'll put that back in the tub down here. So I got one of those big plastic tubs down here on the floor that I'm keeping all these old radios in until I find a place to display them. Okay. Now here's a replica radio, but it's one of the neatest replicas I've seen. Back in the 90s, I think it was, a company that was calling themselves Crosley, the original Crosley having been sort of the Henry Ford of radio. He created a cheaper, mass-produced radio back in the day that really took off. And he also, Crosley, his company also used to have the patent on refrigerators that had shelving on the inside door of the refrigerator. And then when they dropped that, or when they didn't renew that patent, every company that made refrigerators started putting shelves inside the doors. Crosley also made a type of automobile, and there was Crosley Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio, here in the United States, where, Crosley owned the Cincinnati Reds at that time. But anyway, the Cincinnati Reds, I'm sure, have a different stadium. And they'll probably end up changing their name because Reds, I guess, could be offensive to some Native Americans. But I'm going to plug this in. What this is, even though it says Crosley on the dial, just about everything else, and I think it's on. Hang on.
This heifer's from Alcove Cattle Company, broadcasted on DV auction.
Well, anyway, this is it's a replica of an old Zenith Beehive radio, also called the record stacker, because the grill, the speaker grill, looks kind of like a stack of records. And to me, it looks kind of like the Capitol Records building in Hollywood or Los Angeles. And it also looks like a beehive. But anyway, now these used to be, these buttons over here to the right of the dial, on the original they were presets, just like on an old car radio. You would press one and the dial would go right to that station that you had preset. But on here, you have FM, AM, on and off, and then you have, I guess it's on the other side. This wasn't part of the original radio, but on this remake, this replica, they put a little cassette tape player there, which still works. But I just don't have any cassettes right now that I know of. But anyway, let's see.
Beatrice, and get the newer vehicle you deserve.
Now that is the AM dial. I'm going to try to get something on there.
See, the choice is yours, and that choice is Husker Rehab, with locations in Beatrice, Fairbury, Lincoln, and Nebraska City. Learn more at huskerrehab.com.
You can turn it on.
Well, I'm here on the moon, and I'm getting Nebraska.
Classic hit station.
Actually, yeah, that is AM. For a minute, I thought it was this FM station that plays similar things, similar format sometimes. And I think that's how you get an FM there. Trying to find a good station.
Already financed at LFCU, subject to credit approval.
Uncertainty, anxiety, sadness.
Well, I guess I'll turn this off now. I saw an unrestored original one of these Zenith Bakelite Beehive radios. Bakelite is the original, what the case was made out of. This is probably just made out of regular plastic, but it closely resembles the old brown Bakelite. Bakelite being an early form of plastic. But I saw an unrestored, probably not working one of these online for like $325 or something like that, but I can't afford to pay that and have one restored by somebody that knows what they're doing. That would be a tube radio. This is what they used to call solid state. So there's that, and I guess I have one more radio for you. I wish I had an original one of these that was working, but that could cost you upwards of $500, $600, maybe even $1,000, $500, $600, $1,000, perhaps, depending on who, what, where, when, why, and how you got it. So I'll set that down in there. And well, I guess I got two more radios. If I show you the one that needs a new cord, that one had kind of a, well, the cord was sort of frayed, messed up when I bought it. So I thought maybe it would be okay. Let's see. Did I already show this one? Yeah, I already showed this one. Where's that other one? Oh, I guess I'm farther along than I thought. Okay, well, if I can get this one out of here. This will be the last one. I'm not going to plug it in. But this old Motorola radio, Motorola makes smartphones now, I think, but another AM, FM solid state clock radio. Very similar to that other one I showed you. But it needs a new cord, because right here, the cord got, I guess just over time, got bent or something, and yeah, this cord, I'm not going to try to do it now, I don't think, because it takes some real twisting and pulling, but that will pull out of there, and you can get a replacement cord for this. I might be able to find someone online that will sell me one at a reasonable price. And then here was where you set the time and the alarm for the clock, which otherwise still works. I'm pretty sure it does anyway. And that's it. That's the old time radio hour. Actually, I got a couple of other things to show you, so bear with me, and then we're almost done here. Okay, real quick here. I'm just going to show you a couple of things, and we're going to get out of here. That's an old, well, that's a replica, Emerson replica type radio, CD player, cassette player, and turntable, but the right channel no longer works. I had it for a dozen years, and then the right channel quit working. I may have to try to get that repaired someday. And then finally, one more thing. This, let me see if I can back up off it a little bit. That's a kind of a Crosley replica of an old cathedral, well, not quite a cathedral radio. It's a little small, but a cathedral type radio due to the way it was built. And that's it, folks. I'm going to let you go for now. That's the old time radio hour. I hope you enjoyed it. One of these days, maybe I'll do a tour of my shaved in. Peace.